So, what have we seen so far? So far we've met strings as data types, I mean. So far we've met strings. So we've had name and course were both, in this example, both variables which store strings of letters, which is whatever the user types in for their name, and the characters, letters and numbers, comp1753. And now we've met integers. So we can, as you can see, we can get an integer by either converting it from a string. So this first line here, we take the numerical age is converted from the age string, or we can set a value just by typing the value into the code. So this is hard coded as 2020, or we can calculate an integer by subtracting, or we could add or multiply or divide to get another integer. So these three in this example are all created in three different ways. And Python allows you to do both strings and integers, as we've seen, and figures out just what to store based on the context. So here you can see I've put a value equals 25. Python can see that's a number, and it will store it as a number. Some text equals 25 in quote marks. If I put it in quote marks, then Python will store that as a string, as a bit of text. Integer, a string, okay? So basically, whenever you see quote marks, anything in quote marks is a string. Even if it's numbers, okay? So that another value is equal to 25, but it's in quote marks, so it's a string. So that's treated, if you like, as two characters, 2 and a 5. You can't multiply that together, or multiply or add it to something. And actually, Python is quite flexible. Not all programming languages let you do this. Sometimes you have, once you've started with a data type, you have to stick with it for a particular variable. In Python, you can set a variable to store the number 25, an integer, and then change it a bit later on in the program to store a string. You can change the type of the variable. That's unusual in programming, but Python is quite flexible in that way. So if you've done some other programming, you might be familiar with that idea. Python's quite flexible. Okay, so we start with an integer and we end up with a string. There are other data types in Python. There's Boolean values, which store the value true or false. We'll see those in the next lecture. There's floating point numbers, which are decimals. We may use those occasionally. So 2.0 or 3.333. And then there are complex numbers, which we're not going to get onto. So most languages have a number of data types, and some of them are particularly valuable. The most important ones, I think, are the strings, the integers, booleans, and floating point, sometimes known as double as well in other languages. So we'll meet all of those. And as I said, this course is about foundations of programming for pretty much any language. You'll find those in any language. There's a page on W3 Schools all about Python numbers that you can look at. Okay, I think I'm also going to mention operators at this point. So operators are used to perform operations. So adding and subtracting. To do those things, we use an operator in programming and in maths, I guess. And operators that you can use are things like plus and minus and so on. So a string operator is the plus. So you can use operators to do things on strings as well as on numbers. The plus sign is quite flexible in this way. So plus, if you've got two strings, plus will glue them together. So if you see this one here, hello, age, year old plus name, all those 4 bits of information are strings. So there's the word hello, that's a string. The age variable, that's storing a string. The year old, that's another string, fixed string. And then name variable is storing another string. And if you add plus between them, Python will glue them together. Likewise, on this next line, you were born in, and we've got that's a string, and then we convert the year of birth to a string as well, and they get glued together. So if you want to glue strings together, just use a plus symbol. If you're doing numerical operations, you've got a bit more flexibility. As we've seen, you can use plus, you can use minus, you can use times, the asterisk symbol, and you can use a slash symbol for divide. And we saw that in other examples. So you can just, even in the shell, you can just do multiplying two numbers together with the asterisk symbol, the time symbol. Okay, I'm going to stop this video here, and then we'll look at comparing those two examples.